You're listening to the Fantasy Football Podcast with Charles Barr and John Chapman.
Here we go with fantasy football, and I do believe this is the 10th episode. Am I wrong?
Ooh, the big number 10. We're in the double digits.
Yes.
We are in the double digits.
Not only are we in the double digits, but I just want to let everybody know in Twitter world, Twitter universe, that I did surpass 100 followers this week. And it feels really good.
Ooh, big boy, dude. Way to go, man. And I'll say this, no jokes aside, you got some funny stuff on there, man. Definitely original. Most of the people on Twitter just kind of send out what they see. But, man, host Chuck B, at host Chuck B, putting out original, funny content consistently. Give them a follow if you have not already.
I'll try. And, the thing is that I got there and there was more excitement building up to it. And then when it happened, it didn't feel so great because, 8 of the people who sent me were I couldn't even read their language. It was definitely from Russia.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The government's listening in anyway. We'll just kind of have to take it.
That's right. It's all good. So, man, so much to talk about this week. It's unbelievable. And I just got to tell you, my first 3 picks in my draft were Edelman, Spencer Ware, and Cameron Meredith. Was that a bad decision?
Well, one, you should have listened to our podcast so you didn't take all people like that because those are terrible picks for their value. But, yeah, man, that's going to be great.
All right, dude. So let's talk about Julian Edelman. How much impact is this going to have on fantasy value for the Patriots on other players?
Man, so right off the bat, it's almost like Tom Brady's indestructible. But if you go back and look, when Edelman missed 3 games in the past, Tom Brady's numbers went down almost a touchdown per game. Now, I'm not changing him in my rankings at all. I still have him as my number 2 guy. But what it does do is it opens the door for somebody to step in.
Yep.
I mean, Amendola was one of the leading contenders that could have led the NFL in receptions. And so that's gone. And, you go back to those 3 games that Edelman missed, and Amendola stepped in and had over 10 targets per game. Well, that's 2 years later. Amendola is a lot older now. I don't know if he's going to be the guy or if it's going to be Hogan. So we'll just have to see. But I can tell you for sure, 100%, Brandon Cooks and Gronk, man, it increases their potential so much. Because the only knock on those guys is, well, there's so many mouths to feed. Well, you can't say that anymore. You have a pure outside receiver that is elite talent that they traded a first-round pick for, and they want to get him the ball. And then you got Gronk, who could be one of the greatest tight ends ever if he stays healthy.
Well, and 2, I think that there's been some other misnomers in terms of Brady seasons because there was that one season where they had those 2 terrible receivers. I mean, they were awful, and they kept dropping balls. But
Aaron Dobson, man, out of Marshall. I thought that guy was going to be great.
That was so much yikes going on. Let's talk about Spencer Ware for a second. How much does he hurt that team, and how much does it help Kareem Hunt?
So this is twofold, because if you look at what Spencer Ware did last year, he finished as the number 14 overall running back. The guy balled out. He had 900 yards rushing and 400 yards receiving. And so you're talking over 1,300 all-purpose yards, and he is gone. Now, let me just say this about Kareem Hunt. He is an absolute beast that fits this system to a T, and I am willing to say already I have him ranked as my number 1 rookie running back. I moved him all the way past Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey because he is in a better opportunity, 100%. Wow. And so I believe in this kid's talent. I was a big Kareem Hunt fan during the draft process, and this kid can play. He is an all-purpose back, and he's one of those guys that can play 3 downs, and there is zero competition there for him now. There's zero competition. They hate Charcandrick West. They have tried their hardest to get rid of this guy over and over and over again, but now he's the backup. And so I have Kareem Hunt as my number 14 overall running back and number 33 overall. His average draft position right now is going number 37 overall. So If you are drafting soon, pay attention. The guy is going to ball out. He is in a better situation than any rookie running back, and it's not even close.
That's good to know. Let's move on to Mr. Meredith. I feel bad for this guy.
I was so high on Cameron Meredith. I got him in several best ball leagues. I have him in a dynasty league. Like I love Cameron Meredith, and I thought this year he was going to crush it. Oh.
Sadness, but on the other end, and do feel bad for the guy, but man, if there were ever a scenario in which Kevin White actually had a really high fantasy ceiling, here it is.
Yeah, you're going to see exactly what Kevin White is. We're going to find out right off the bat what he can do. And now let me just say this. Last year, he was leading the entire team in targets through 4 weeks. Even that's when Alshon was healthy and not suspended. And so he could run the route. He just can't stay healthy. So we'll see what he can do. I just don't know. But I can tell you this. There's going to be more than one wide receiver. And I'm telling you right now, Kendall Wright is going to be the guy. He is going to be the guy out there. Victor Cruz is fighting for that spot, but I'm putting money on Kendall Wright. And I'm going to tell you why. The offensive coordinator, nobody knows who this guy is. His name is Dowell Logans. Okay. Loganes, maybe. He was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee in 2013 when, guess what? Who else was there? Kendall Wright.
Kendall Wright.
And not only was Kendall Wright there, Kendall Wright had 94 receptions and over 1,000 yards receiving that year. So you got somebody that knows how to use them and has already seen what he can do. Kendall Wright is going to step into that position. Now, I don't think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, but you can get him for free right now. He is going undrafted in almost every single format. So I am waiting for like one of my last picks. I am taking Kendall Wright.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we're going to move on to some other news right now. We're going to talk about Mr. Leprechaun himself. But before we talk about the appeal with Zeke, I just got to ask you a question, okay?
All right.
10-man league. I took Zeke with my third. He took him in the third round. Too early?
No. And let me just say this. In smaller leagues, okay, you go for pure upside. So if you're
right
in a 12-man league where he is going right now, he's going right around the middle of the second round. He's going pick 17 overall right now in average draft position. And that's in 12-man leagues.
Yeah, so, and I got him at 22, I believe.
There's nothing wrong with that. And with recent news, basically says this. They might fight, the appeal might suspend the suspension, if that makes any damn sense. Very similar to what happened with Brady, where they postponed the suspension till after the hearing. But I'll say this, I don't think that's going to happen. The NFL has already set the precedent that they are going to change the way the appeals process works, and they are signing Goodell to an extension. And so they have done their homework here. This is not a knee-jerk reaction. They investigated it for over an entire year, and I think the NFL is going to win this. He is going to serve this 6-game suspension. Now, the only thing that is going against the league is time. Tomorrow is going to be the second day of the appeal process, and it could continue for longer and longer and longer. But
looks like it will.
It looks like it will. So best case scenario for Zeke owners is he plays week 1 or 2 and then serves his 6-game suspension. But he's serving 6 games. I'll stand by that. He's going to serve 6 games.
The worst case scenario would be if he ended up taking his suspension during the fantasy playoffs. That'd be terrible.
He plays the first 6 weeks and then misses the second. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that'd be a great trade. Other news that's kind of not important, but it's important to you, so we should talk about it.
Well, I already know what you're going to say now, and that kind of hurts my feelings because this is the most important news.
Vance McDonald gets traded to the Steelers, which he probably will be effective there.
He will be. Coach Tomlin basically made fun of every tight end on his roster during the press conference, and he said, well, our tight ends are just not varsity enough, which is not proper English and like mean. Jesse James is awesome, first off, and he is the exact opposite of Vance McDonald. Jesse James catches every single ball. He runs every single right route, but he just falls down after he catches it. Vance McDonald runs the wrong routes, is super fast. He just can't catch the ball. So he does have a better quarterback and a much better offense, so he does have some fantasy potential. I'm not drafting him. But what this does for the 49ers, if you're in dynasty leagues, go get George Kittle. George Kittle is going – I'm telling you this right now. He is going to be a player. He has played great in the preseason, has gotten lots of targets. So, anyway, that's what it is. But Vance McDonald sucks.
Can we quickly touch on your guy? I mean, I got to say, C.J. Beathard, I've been impressed with what I've seen.
C.J. Beathard, he had his worst game this time, but I'm telling you, Niners Nation is coming out saying, everybody always wanted Kirk Cousins next year to come to the 49ers, including Kirk Cousins. But Niners Nation's coming out and basically saying, you know what? I think we want to roll the dice with this cat right here because he is looking exceptionally well. So, again, if you are a dynasty guy, pick him up, especially if you're in a super flex or 2 QB league. He's free. He's just sitting out there. And the potential to start's there. It's there in the future. We'll see.
All right. So Corey Davis and Eric Decker return to practice.
Yeah, yes, sir. Corey Davis looking absolutely great. I'm so excited to see this. And what this means is buy Marcus Mariota. I love Marcus Mariota this year, and I think he's going to be finishing. He's going to be a top 10 QB. I have him moved up. He's my number 9 guy right now, but I'm telling you right now, the potential for this kid is exceptional with his new weapons that he has. Not to mention, he has probably one of the top 3 receiving backs out of the backfield. And so I really think touchdown passes are going to be there. Plus, you have the upside with rushing touchdowns, which he is going to have. So if you're in a 4-point passing or touchdown league, this is your guy. I absolutely love Marcus Mariota this year.
I've never seen a cleaner pocket than what that offensive line. I mean, obviously the Cowboys are in the conversation, but I just watched all these exotic blitzes, 7, 8-man blitzes sometimes, and that offensive line picks it up. So I agree with you. I think that Mariota is in store for a big year.
Yep, I love this kid, man. I am all in on him.
Yes, and I actually got him in that league we were just talking about. But here's a guy who I kind of just need to say, I'm not saying I told you so because he isn't injured yet, but just more evidence about my doubts about Andrew Luck this year.
Oh.
Even if he gets in, even if he does, why would you believe with all the injuries that they're taking, even on the defensive side of the ball, Davis is now out at cornerback.
See, I love that, though. That's a positive. That's not a negative. When the defense is bad, that means you have to throw the ball more.
I see, and here's where we'll disagree on this because I think that you cannot just put your Ferrari at 150 miles an hour at all times. It sounds nice for fantasy production for here and there, but we're looking for the long haul, folks. I think that he's going to get blitzed and hit and blitzed and hit, and yeah, he may be out there 15 more plays than the other average quarterbacks, but he's not going to last. So I think that having defensive presence that keeps him off the field is a good thing. I think it improves his quality overall. That's just me.
And I get that, and I understand. So, for example, I had a draft last night, and I got Andrew Luck in the 11th round. Like, that's unreal. You have a guy that's going to miss some time, and I understand that. But you call him a Ferrari. That's your analogy, because he's a freaking Ferrari. Yeah. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL, not to mention his rushing potential. But if you look at what he can do, he's finished as a top 2 QB before. He's done that. And if he's missing 2 games, I get it, that sucks. But the value he's at right now, and here's the deal. You can pair him with a free quarterback. Carson Palmer is almost free right now. His first 2 weeks, he plays at Detroit with a terrible secondary, then at the Colts. Grab Carson Palmer for free. And just stick Luck on your bench. Or Sam Bradford. He plays New Orleans, then Pittsburgh. Again, 2 poor secondaries. You have to go for potential. And when you're talking about a quarterback getting in the 11th round that could finish as a top 5 QB, man, I'll take that any day. Now, our bet, we bet who's going to score more points. I took Andrew Luck, and you took – do you remember even who you took, or can I change the terms if you don't know it?
I took Matt Ryan.
You took, damn it, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's looked really good in the preseason. Big shocker there. So I'm probably going to lose that bet. That's not looking that great, but I still feel confident that Luck is going to be a gigantic fantasy asset that you can get on the cheap right now.
Yeah, coach. So Matt Forte is on the trade block, and you know what? I was wondering, because I've actually gone to Bears training camps, and first of all, the guy's massive. He stands next to a fullback, and you're like, who is who? But yet he's light on his feet. And
he's a big old boy.
They just showed this play where Matt Forte does a spin move to make one of the most pure tacklers at a cornerback position, Janoris Jenkins, miss, and shows you he's still got something left. Who could you see Matt Forte going to and being effective?
So the place I don't want him to go to is the Cowboys, because I'm all in on Darren McFadden, because you're getting him relatively cheap. He's going in the back end of the 7th round. But Forte, man, he's rough because he has had so many carries for so many years. He is on 9 straight years of having over 250 touches a year.
Wow.
He's had a workload, and he has been so consistent and awesome, and I love this guy. But the Jets are in full fire sale mode, and they're just trying to basically say, look, we want the first overall pick. We need a QB. Let's just get rid of everything. Now, if they do get rid of him, Bilal Powell will be a third down, every down back for them, and they have nothing else. So if they do trade Forte's fantasy value isn't going to go up really anywhere, no matter where he goes. But what's fantasy relevant here is what happens to Bilal Powell's value if he is traded. That's going to be huge.
Gotcha. Well, another person that's on the block is supposedly Joe Hayden.
Yeah. Joe Hayden looked really good this week in the 3rd preseason game. He balled out, and he was laying the wood. He was playing very, very aggressive, but he's lost a step after his injuries. He's definitely not an elite fantasy guy, but he provides some value somewhere. It's not really fantasy relevant, but, man, he got torched by receivers the last couple years, so we'll see what happens there.
Him and A.J. Green are too friendly on the field.
I remember back in the day where Hayden used to shut down A.J. Green 2 games in a row because they're in the same division. And I remember one year he kept A.J. Green to like 3 catches for 40 yards, and that was in 2 games. Like, it was awesome, but those days are long gone.
Yeah, he used to be a badass. It would be like getting Namdi. Who would do a thing like that?
And pay top shelf money for him. That was the sad thing is I wanted the Niners to get him, and I was so pissed when y'all did. But then we got him for free and cut him the next year.
Jesus, that even hurts to talk about. So another thing that hurts to talk about, Flacco. I guess he's close to ready. I guess we should be excited about that for the Ravens.
Yeah, but back issues, you got to be careful. And they are basically saying we don't need a backup quarterback. And so it's Flacco or bust, which I really think this team is pretty much bust. They are not going to be good. They're going to throw the ball like crazy, so the numbers are going to be there. But, man, fantasy relevance for this team, stay away. Running back, terrible. Receivers, terrible. Quarterback, terrible. Now, the value's there, don't be wrong. So you get Jeremy Maclin at a good value, awesome. Whoever their tight end's going to be is going to have a ridiculous amount of targets. The running back, if Woodhead's healthy in PPR leagues, great. Terrence West, obviously, he's a bye-week fill-in, but nobody is going to be a fantasy stud there. Nobody.
Right. Nobody. So, you know what, the Bills, speaking of fire sales.
It's getting worse. So, Tyrod Taylor, he's still in concussion protocol. And the coach came out today and basically said, yeah, we're kind of concerned he won't be ready for week 1. Do you know who their starting quarterback is going to be? Because their first and third string quarterback are in concussion protocol. Guess who it's going to be?
I mean, this is showing my knowledge here that I don't know. Is it Kevin Kolb?
No, not Kevin Kolb. It's a rookie. It's Nathan Peterman, who I actually liked in the draft process out of Pitt. But, I mean, you're going to have this guy stepping in that's been playing with the third team and he's going to be starting week 1, which is just absolutely ridiculous. TJ Yates was their number 2. You remember him back with the Texans.
Yeah,
he's
Texans.
also in concussion protocol. So this just shows you how bad it is. And all that to say this is why it's important for fantasy. Obviously, you are not starting any wide receivers in fantasy for the Bills. It does hurt LaShawn, but who is the defense they are playing against? The Jets. So the Jets are going to be an absolute monster must-start defense for week 1. And this is why we don't talk about defenses, because you go with the matchups. Don't start the hybrids. Don't go after the Texans. If you can get them, that's great, but don't draft them outside of the last 2 rounds. I'm telling you this right now. The Jets, if Tyrod Taylor's out, will outscore the Texans defense, which is a beast, but you got to play the startups. Or actually start the Steelers defense, who get to play wonderful Deshaun Kaiser and the Cleveland Browns. They're free. They're absolutely free, the Steelers defense.
So speaking of the Cleveland Browns, Kaiser is named starter. Can you talk to us about what that means for fantasy production for a few of those guys?
Well, so what it means is this. He takes shots, and he has looked awful. If you watch the games, and this is the problem with most fantasy analysis, you can pull the highlights up, and he has 3 flash plays. He did the exact same thing at Notre Dame. He is a flashy, highlight-making quarterback, but on 3rd and 5, he's terrible. And so he has several bad plays and then several, blow-up, amazing plays. So this offense is going to be inept if they are trying to pass the ball. But their offensive line is spectacular, and they can run the ball very, very well. So a lot of very low-scoring games. But I love Crowell, but the receiving options there, I am almost done with. I do not want Corey Coleman. If I want anybody, it's going to be Britt, who had 1,000 yards last year with a terrible quarterback and a terrible team. So hopefully he can do it again. But
see, I like Britt. It's definitely a buy. Filler. So another guy named the starter is Josh McCown.
Yeah, back to the Jets, and teams competing for that first overall pick, which I do not put the Browns in that territory. The Browns are a legit football team that are very inexperienced. They have so much talent, and if you have a good defense and a strong offensive line, you will be competitive in every game. But the Jets will not be competitive in almost all games.
I gotta say, as much as I hate him, I don't like his personality at all. But that Greg Williams seems to have had an impact on that defensive club, because they're playing nasty.
It's very aggressive,
Yeah, they're walking around with some swag and with some aggression. So there's somebody to not take lightly. Let's talk about some fantasy Week 3 winners. Preseason Week 3 winners.
Hey,
who do you got?
I'm excited too. I'm ready for the regular season as well.
Yeah.
A couple guys. So number 1 right off the bat, got to go with one of my Niners. That's Carlos Hyde. He has not looked great running the ball. He's looked great. The run protection has not been great, but he is so active in the passing game. He had an amazing touchdown on an running back option route that was just great. But here's what's important about Carlos Hyde, and volume is key. All the rumors came out, he might be cut. There's timeshare, the new rookie Joe Williams, all this stuff. BS. Carlos Hyde has taken almost 95% of the snaps with the starters, and he has been in there on every 3rd down. This guy is in the category now of workhorse bats. Now, I'm not saying he's up there with Johnson and Le'Veon Bell, but the workload is there. And so the potential for this guy is absolutely gigantic. So absolutely love Carlos Hyde. And then just 2 other guys, you're talking about volume. Keenan Allen, oh my gosh. If you watched Week 3 game in the first quarter when Phillip Rivers was out there, 5 targets, 5 catches, 45 yards in less than a quarter for Keenan Allen. I mean, the guy, if he's healthy, he's going to lead the entire NFL in receptions, and it's not going to be close.
Yeah, and you kind of worry about, too, that injury bug. So Tyrell Williams is another guy. Even though Keenan Allen's the winner here, still keep my eye on that guy.
Oh, I love Tyrell Williams because he's a big play guy that gets lots of targets. And so the problem is he's a bad NFL receiver, and I think he cost them 2 games last year. He ran the wrong routes and read the defense wrong, and Phillip Rivers yelled at him, and it was bad. But he makes big plays. He just doesn't always make good decisions.
John, he got better. So just so you know,
he did get better.
Who else you got?
Another one, the Saints, Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn is taking almost all snaps in 2 wide receiver sets over Willie Snead. And not only that, but they have been getting Ted Ginn the ball on reverses, screens. It seems like Ted Ginn is going to be the number 2 wide receiver, and they have put him in the exact same position that they had Brandon Cooks in. Now, they're running the exact same plays. They have not changed their playbook. They just took Brandon Cooks out and put Ted Ginn Jr. in the exact same thing. Now, he obviously is not Brandon Cooks. I'm not saying he's going to be a number 1 or number 2 wide receiver. That's not the case whatsoever. But I'm telling you this, he is pretty much free. Whereas Willie Snead is going in the 6th round. Oh, let me scroll down for a while to find out where his teammate, who is getting snaps ahead of him, oh, he's going in the 13th round right now. Like this guy, I'm telling you right now, Ted Ginn Jr. is going to be a top 36 wide receiver in the NFL, fantasy-wise. So
I believe it.
And now Ted Ginn's usually the type of guys I hate having on my team, these boom or bust players. But if you can get this kind of guy that late, you're talking about he could have 2 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's going to be an issue for him because Drew Brees is one of the greatest deep ball throwers in the history of the NFL. So that's what it's going to be.
You know, I'm so interested to see what happens with this Saints team. I really am. You have all this running back talent back there. 3 guys who are legit when they touch the ball. Let's kind of see what happens with Adrian, right? I believe in him the least out of those 3.
I do too. You know what's interesting, though? The Saints have led the NFL the past 4 years in rushing touchdowns. Who would have guessed that?
Not me. Definitely not. I would have thought that it was the Patriots last year. But
I'm talking like the last 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Last year alone, the New England was 6th in rushing touchdowns. Let me see where the Patriots are because they were pretty close. I mean, that's ridiculous how many freaking rushing touchdowns LeGarrette Blount had. So
18, I believe.
Yeah, so they were number 5. They were number 5. Who would have guessed that?
Not me. So do you have anybody else who you consider a week 3 winner for preseason?
John Brown for Arizona, the wide receiver who he's battling sickle cell, and I think he's going to be an on-off type of player. Whenever it acts up, he's not going to be able to play. But he had 2 touchdowns, and they weren't just 2 touchdowns. They were 2 spectacular touchdowns. The wide receiving core in Arizona is Larry Fitzgerald and David Johnson. That's it. So if John Brown can play, you're talking wide receiver 2 upside. It's just you can't rely on him because if the sickle cell starts acting up, he's going to be a scratch or just they put him out there in the past and just told him to run flies because he's so freaking fast and just be a decoy. So he's not somebody you really can rely on, but he is a home run swing that you can get super cheap right now. And so that's kind of my last winner that I got. But, I mean, the preseason is basically over for fantasy purposes. Now, this is going to be interesting because this is the first time in NFL history they are cutting rosters from 90 to 53. Usually it was staggered. So you're talking 1,100 players are going to be cut in the next week. That's super sad and depressing. But there's going to be some movement, and you're going to have guys pick up running backs. And so pay attention to the pickups and all that stuff and who makes the rosters, which Joe Williams, I don't think will get cut for the Niners, but he's on the bubble, which is nuts.
Yeah, that is nuts. Can I just say one thing before we move into our favorite segment? One of my favorite highlights from the preseason Hard Knocks show is when Jameis – this is just the silliest thing ever. So – they cut their kicker, right? And now they got Nick Folk in there. And then they're about to score a touchdown. He's like, all right, here we go. Now listen, we're going to score this 6. And that's all we can control. And I know Nick Folk is going to score that point. I know he is. And it's like, why do you even have to say it? You just added more pressure, Jameis. Like, you do not understand anything. Just shut up. And so, dude, I just was like cracking up so hard.
I love Jameis Winston. Yeah. I really do. My favorite part, and so I've knocked on Jameis for, the sexual issues in the past and stealing crab legs, which is hilarious. But whenever the third string quarterback, gosh, what's his freaking name? It's off the top of my head. Anyway, he gets injured, he gets sacked, and he gets knocked out of the game. And two of the linemen, the backup linemen, are cracking jokes on the sideline about 20 minutes later. And Jameis just walks over there and just goes, I'm glad to see that y'all are having fun, but right now y'all's quarterback is in the locker room injured. I just want y'all to think about that. And just walked off. And I was just like, hell yeah, man. Put them in their freaking place. Because that was really cool. That was awesome.
That was the best thing, I gotta give him credit, dude. That was amazing. So you gotta the Lord taketh and He giveth away. Anyways, so we got this awesome segment, and I'm sad to say that it's our last division we're going to discuss. But it's probably one of the more interesting divisions.
It's the closest top to bottom for sure. Anybody can win this.
I agree. So NFC South. Let's start. Maybe what's crazy is I think the hardest thing to predict is who's going to be first and who's going to be last.
I got my own thing. So you want me to start off at the top or start off at the bottom?
Man, let's go. Let's go with the top.
Okay, top. I got a repeat division winner. I got Atlanta winning the division again, and the main reason why is this: they had the number one offense last year, scored like the fifth most points in NFL history. Offense is going to step down. It's not going to be as good without Kyle Shanahan there, and I think Matt Ryan's going to regress. I've talked about this a lot, but that's okay. But that defense is super young, and if they improve at all, then I think they're going to be awesome because they only had the 27th ranked defense last year, but they got a lot of sacks and they got a lot of turnovers. So if that defense improves at all, then I think this is going to be theirs. At worst, Atlanta's going to be a wild card team. Like they are built to win.
I'm going to go Carolina.
You got Carolina 1?
I got Carolina 1, and I'm going to tell you why.
All right.
First of all, contrary to what you have said, Kelvin Benjamin has looked very good.
I've been wrong. I've been wrong on that.
Tummy jokes aside, hamburger jokes aside, okay, he has looked really athletic. He has not just run jump ball routes. I've been watching him. He looks awesome.
He's played awesome.
And I think the other thing is that I think that McCaffrey opens up so much for that offense that Cam has shouldered for so long. And then I just think, too, that defense is enough. And I think that they're going to keep it close in a lot of games. So I think I like Carolina 1. And then I like, who do you put? I still don't even know. I think I go Atlanta 2.
You go Atlanta 2, okay. See, I got Tampa Bay 2. And so I love what they got going there with their offense, and their defense is very opportunistic. I mean, they get sacks and they get turnovers. And I think Hargraves, their corner that they took in the first round out of Florida last year, who got absolutely destroyed, I think he's ready. I really do. I think he's ready to step up. And, I mean, I think they're going to be all right. I got them in second spot, man. And plus, Hard Knocks makes me love them. I hate to say that.
And how does one, because now it's for third place, I've got to choose between the Bucs and the Saints. How does somebody put the Saints in last place?
I got them last place. I got them dead last.
With Drew Brees, I guess they do have the weaker division.
I don't like their offensive line. They had a couple of key injuries, and I absolutely despise their defense.
So I'm going to just say real quick why I have the Bucs going third.
Okay.
And that's just because Jameis doesn't check for down and distance in games.
He's not very intelligent.
So that for me is a big deal. They're going to be this year's Vikings. They're going to come out strong.
Okay.
Sean's going to have a 2-touchdown, game with like 180 yards, and people are going to get real crazy. And then around week 6, 7, or 8, they're going to get smacked. And I think that Jameis just goes on an interception tear, and he just starts binge eating crab legs, and it's just a nightmare. So I got the Bucs at 3rd.
Okay, I respect that.
And then, I think we agree. Saints dead last.
Gosh, man, which is so sad. But they had the 31st worst defense last year. And so here's the thing. They had the number 2 point scored on offense and 31st, second to last on defense. It's not built to sustain leads. I know that they got the running backs. That's great. But that defense is awful. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy that the Saints are last place because, say, in the AFC South, they would either be first or second,
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. They'll be in a lot of games, a lot of shootouts, but Jared Goff threw for 3 touchdowns in the first half against the Saints last year.
Yikes.
With Jeff Fisher as the coach.
Yikes. I don't love it. But maybe that makes them a really good team to really, when you're in Fantasy Kings or you're doing something like that, that if your offense is going against the Saints.
Oh, play them.
Coach.
Yep.
Put them in,
You're exactly
coach.
right.
Well, man, this has been episode 10, and what's crazy is we got our, that JV Week 4 games coming up. And
which I'm excited about, but not necessarily for fantasy. I just enjoy seeing all the draft picks play.
Me too, and I'm happy that your team didn't sustain any crazy injuries, and my team didn't either. So we'll at least get a shot to see what our teams look like in Week 1.
There we go. So make sure you follow us on Twitter, JL_Chapman, CHAPMAN, and host Chuck B. Now up to the century mark. So what's up?
What's up? All right, peace out.
Peace.